unmuted.
This meeting of the City of Socorro Planning and Zoning Commission is set to begin. Due to the ongoing threat to public health, the City of Socorro, Texas Council and Commissions will be conducting a virtual meeting, broadcasted by phone and live streaming services from council chambers located at 860 North Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas 79927, to practice social distancing and limit the number of the people physically present at one time. There will be no physical access to a location mentioned above. We do ask everyone to silence their electronics to avoid any sound interruptions. No disruptive behavior or outbursts will be tolerated, and violators are subject to call disconnection and possible prosecution. Anyone who has signed up to speak or present will be called upon by the presiding officer to speak during public comment or on their specific agenda item, in accordance with Government Code 551.042. La reunión de la Comisión de Planificación y Zonificación de la Ciudad de Socorro está por empezar. Por el programa de salud pública en curso, el Concilio y las comisiones de la Ciudad de Socorro, Texas, transmitirá su reunión por teléfono y servicios de transmisión en vivo desde la sala del Concilio localizada en 860 Rio Vista Road, Socorro, Texas, 79927. Para practicar el distanciamiento social y limitar el número de personas físicamente presentes. No habrá acceso físico a la ubicación mencionada anteriormente. Les pedimos a todos que silencien su equipo electrónico para evitar interrupciones de sonido. No se va a tolerar ningún tipo de comportamiento perjudicial o revoltoso. Quien no siga estas reglas, su llamada será desconectada y puede ser infraccionado. A quien se haya apuntado para hablar o presentar será anunciado por el oficial conduciendo la reunión, para hablar durante los comentarios públicos o sobre su tema específico de la agenda, de acuerdo con el Código del Gobierno 551.042.
This is the Socorro Planning and Zoning Commission, April 20, 5:38 p.m. We call this meeting to order.
Item number 2, establishment of quorum. Andrew Arroyos,
Here.
Enrique Cisneros,
Here.
Ernest Gomez, Mr. Ernest Gomez is absent today. David Estrada,
Here.
Arturo Lafuente.
Here.
Motion carried. Item number 3, notice to the public open forum. Diana, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Not an open forum.
Item number 4, consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Lafuente, seconded
Yes.
by Mr. Andrew Arroyos.
Mr. Cisneros.
Cisneros.
I'm sorry, Cisneros. Now I'd like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm gonna abstain.
abstain. Okay. Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
Ernest Gomez is absent. Motion carried. Item number 5, public hearing for the proposed rezoning of tracts 1830 and 1838, Lee Clark Survey 293 located at 11353 Stockyard Road from unclassified to C2, general commercial for trucking business.
We open public hearing at, sorry about that. Sorry. We open public hearing at 5:40.
I'm sorry, Mr. Arroyos, you were muted?
So we close public record, public hearing at 5:41.
Thank you. Item number 6, consider and take action on the proposed rezoning of tracts 1830 and 1830A Lee Clark Survey 293 located 11353 Stockyard Road from unclassified to C2 general commercial for the trucking business.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an application for a rezoning. This property is located at 11353 Stockyard. It's right at the intersection of Alisa and Stockyard, next to the Sparks Arroyo. The property has approximately 2.8 acres, and it's owned by Jose and Maria Olivas. The petitioner is asking for a zoning classification because currently this property doesn't have a zoning. It was annexed to Socorro in 2003, so there's no classification. And the intention is because they want to use the property to store commercial vehicles. According to the flood insurance rate maps, this property is in Zone X. Currently, the property is vacant. There were some code violations that were identified, but they've been taken care of. He cleaned the property, so it's vacant. The proposed use of the property will be commercial. According to the future land use map, there's no classification on this land. The adjacent zoning, and we provided you a small map, a zoning map that looks like this. According to the zoning, on the north, there's M2. In the south, there's C2. In the east, C2. And on the west, there's M1. So approving this proposed use is not in conflict with the surrounding area. The Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval. I don't know if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions. If anybody else does?
I don't have any questions.
Mr. La Fuente, you are muted?
Okay. You said, Joe, you said that there's some violations. Are those violations have been resolved?
Yes, they have been resolved. They went ahead and cleaned the property. So right now the land is completely vacant. Also, the applicant should be on the line. I don't know if you have any questions for him.
And you said that what is the purpose of the changing the zoning?
They want to use it to store commercial vehicles like semi-trucks and stuff like that. So it's for the parking of large vehicles.
Is the road enough wider to allow these semi-trucks coming in and out?
The road in front of the property is considered a truck
yard?
route. Yes, this is a truck route. And a few years ago, City Council approved an ordinance to extend the truck route up to this point, more or less. So this entire portion of Stockyard is specifically for large trucks, as you can see here on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
This is perfectly allowed in this area.
And the master plan of the city of Socorro, is designating this area also to do that?
On the master plan, it's not showing a zoning classification or a future land use. It's not showing anything because this area was annexed to Socorro in 2003. That's the reason why there's a lot of properties that don't have a classification.
Okay.
Mostly the ones that are vacant. And this is one of them.
And there's no problem with the swell of the arroyo that is there?
No, sir.
Because I'm seeing that is the arroyo gonna have some work to be straight, or they're gonna leave it like that?
They don't have any plans of modifying the arroyo. They have told us when they were grading and they were leveling some of the land over here,
Mm-hmm.
they did mention that they have absolutely no intention of modifying or touching the arroyo because this is a flood zone that is recognized by FEMA, and they don't want to go through all the studies that are required to amend the firms. So they're gonna leave it alone.
Is there any enclosed walls around the property once it's approved, made from fence, rock wall, or whatever block?
No, they don't have any plans to enclose any of the properties. In fact, they're not required to do so because the zoning is perfectly compatible with the area.
So they don't need the divisions between the other land, other properties?
No, sir, only if there was a residential zone, they would have to erect a wall between the residential and commercial. In this property, there's no residential zone around it, so they're not required.
What about the city? There's no recommendations from the city?
The city or the planning and zoning department only recommends approval of this request just because there's no issues found.
Is anywhere the city can recommend to the owner to do some enclosing later on?
No, sir.
Okay.
So I make a motion to approve, please.
I'll second that.
I have a motion made by Mr. Arroyos to approve, seconded by Mr. Cisneros. Now I'd like to take my votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent today. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 7, public hearing for the proposed conditional use permit for a mechanical shop in tracks 1A, 2B, and 1M, Lee Clark Survey 298 located at 10700 Robin Road.
We open public hearing at 5:49.
Rudy or Leslie, if you'd like to speak?
We really, if you'll answer any questions that the commission has, we really didn't have a presentation or anything to present.
Oh, okay. So if the commission has any questions, you'd be able to answer them in the next item. Or, yeah, if they have any questions for you.
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Arroyos, this is still the public hearing.
Okay. So can we close it now that they don't have a presentation?
Yes,
So we close public hearing at 5:50.
thank you. Item number 8, consider and take action on the proposed conditional use permit for a mechanic shop in tracks 1A, 2B, 1M, Lee Clark Survey 298 located at 10700 Robin Road.
This is an application for a conditional use permit. This property is located at 10700 Robin. This property is about 500 feet from Horizon at the corner of Robin and Reed Road. This property has approximately 0.38 acres and it's owned by Moad Family Ltd. Partnership. According to the flood insurance rate maps, this property is in Zone X. The current use of the property is commercial. The proposed use is commercial with a conditional use permit for the mechanic shop. And according to the future land use map, this property is designed to be used for commercial purposes. On the north of the property, there is A1. In the south, there's C2. In the east, there's R1. And on the west, there's C2. The petitioner is asking for the approval of the conditional use permit to allow them to continue using the existing building as a mechanic shop. A conditional use permit is required according to Chapter 46, 414, Section 6. And on this one, the Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval. I don't know if you have any questions about this one.
How long has the mechanic shop been operational for?
We couldn't identify when they started operating. They were caught by code enforcement operating a mechanic shop without the conditional use permit, so that's the reason why they're asking for the approval. But we don't know exactly when they started using it. There used to be a business here before, and I think it was a business that had to do with street striping or something like that. They used to manage paints and stuff for the roadways, but they're no longer there, and now they're using the building as a mechanic shop. You don't see any body parts outside. Everything looks clean. So all the mechanic work is happening inside this building that you see in the screen.
Is just mechanic shop or there's also body shop?
It's only mechanic shop.
Are they gonna be required to do any improvements on that lot?
No, sir, everything is fully developed and they're just operating inside the building. There's no improvements required, or no additional improvements required.
I don't have any other questions.
I make a motion to approve?
I second.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Cisneros, seconded by Mr. Arroyos. I would like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente,
Yes.
motion carried. Item number 9, public hearing for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of lots 11 and 12, Block 2, Pole subdivision located at 10A60 and 10A70 Shanda Circle.
We open public hearing at 5:54. So we close public hearing at 5:55.
Thank you. Item number 10, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of lots 11 and 12, Block 2, Pole subdivision located at 10A60 and 10A70 Shanda Circle.
This is an application for a rezoning. This property is located at 10860 Shanda Circle. This property is there's an error in the report. This property is located close to Alameda and Shanda. It has 1 acre, and it's owned by Iglesia Ebenezer, Inc. According to the flood insurance rate maps, this property is in Zone X. Currently, the property is vacant. And there's also another error on the proposed land use. They're asking for residential use. They want to change it from commercial to residential. According to the future land use map, it's showing as commercial. On the north of the property, there's R1. In the south, there's C2. The east is R1. And on the west, there's C2. According to the petitioner, they're trying to change it back to residential because they want to build a house in this property. They've been trying to, they put it on the market. They wanted to sell the property as commercial, but they couldn't find a customer, so they're gonna try to build a house. The Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval. I don't know if you have any questions.
Is there, are there any residential, is there any residential zoning on that block?
Yes, the property next door, and I'm just gonna turn on this layer real quick. This property was rezoned in May 2019 to residential, the one in the corner, for the same reason, because the owner claimed the same thing, that they couldn't sell the property as commercial and they couldn't develop it. The reason for that is because the frontage is along the residential road in the back. So they couldn't develop it as a commercial lot. And they were asking for a zoning change to residential, and it was granted in 2019. So now the neighbors want to do the same thing.
I don't have any other questions.
Is the applicant, present?
Yes.
My question is how fast would they, are they thinking they would start developing?
He speaks Spanish. Mr. Luna, Pedro Luna.
El aplicante de la iglesia de Benecer le están preguntando que cuándo va a comenzar la construcción de la casa.
Oh, ok, pues ya en cuanto me den el sí, yo empiezo a construir.
No lo escuché muy bien. ¿Lo puedes repetir más? No lo puedo escuchar.
Ok, en cuanto ya ustedes me den el sí, yo empiezo a construir.
So he said that he's trying to start immediately as soon as the zoning is granted.
Do I have a motion?
I do have another question. Is it gonna be, because again, it looks, bueno, una otra pregunta, señor Gardea. Veo que aquí es una iglesia que está pidiendo el cambio. ¿Va a ser para una casa o para una iglesia?
Vamos, va a ser una casa. Vamos a hacer una casa. Queríamos cambiarlo de la comercial a residencial.
So va a ser una casa residencial, no va a ser iglesia, ¿verdad?
No va a ser iglesia, va a ser casa.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion for approval.
A second.
I have a motion made by Mr. La Fuente to approve, seconded by Mr. Arroyos. I would like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 11, public hearing for the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of tract 19B, Block 4, Socorro Grant located at 600 Moon.
We open public hearing at 6:01.
I'm sorry,
There's nobody.
Mr. O'Brien, would you like to listen to the
Yes.
presentation, or would you like to make any questions?
I would love to know what they're doing.
Okay.
I would know information on what's going on.
Okay, awesome. So we'll have the presentation. If you have any questions, we have you for both items.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, the audio's bad. I can't understand what you're saying to me.
So we have you signed up for both items, just in case you wanted to speak after the item is presented.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're saying to me. I apologize.
No, you're fine. So we have you signed up for both the public hearing and the consider and take action. That way you can ask the questions after the presentation is made.
Can you tell me what they're trying to do with this piece of property?
Yeah, so after the presentation, it'll be more informational,
Okay, when's the presentation?
right after this.
I'm in.
So we close public hearing at 6:02.
Thank you. Item number 12, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of tract 19B, Block 4, Socorro Grant located at 600 Moon.
So this property, this is an application for a zoning change on a property that is in the corner of Moon Road and North Loop. This is the property shaped like a triangle. This property has about 0.8197 acres. It's owned by Sarah and Eloy Duran. According to the flood insurance rate maps, this property is in Zone X. Currently, the property is vacant land, except for there are some structures here that they're in the process of cleaning it up. They're proposing to use that land for commercial use. According to the future land use map, this is zoned as rural residential. On the north of the property, there's R1. In the south, there's R1. In the east, there's R1. And on the west, there's C2. The petitioner is asking for a zoning change. It's currently unclassified, and they're asking for commercial because they want to build a structure in the property. The Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval. I don't know if you have any questions about this lot.
Yes, I have a question. The Moon Road is wide enough, or there's no right of way for that street complying with the street? Because looks like the property is right next to the street, and there's no right of way for that street.
So the street is currently wide enough for the residential traffic that is flowing through it. The city doesn't have any plans of widening the road anytime soon.
Because actually, Moon Road is one of the main roads to cross from North Loop to Alameda, right?
Yes, they're also gonna need a variance when they start building their structure. they are gonna need a variance to the setbacks because obviously the shape of the property will not allow them to comply with the required setbacks. On one side of the property, you can see there is a canal.
The canal, yes.
Yes, there's a ditch right here.
That one also has, an area,
But until we see the construction plans, we have no idea what the building will look like.
mhm.
When we see the construction plans, we're gonna ask the applicant that they comply with the setbacks. I don't know how the building will be shaped, but it might be necessary to request a variance from the Board of Adjustments in the future.
Mhm. What I'm seeing in this drawing, the moon road, it looks like wider on the other side, the opposite side of the land, and has more land to dedicate to the street. Right across the land in question.
Yes, that is correct.
There's no, on the master plan, there's no limits of the right of way of that street.
There might be some right-of-way necessary, but at this point in time, because like I mentioned earlier, there's no plans for widening the street yet. And,
Yes, but in the future, we might need some land over there.
yes.
Mr. Terrazas, if the applicant is on the line,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if he'd like to share with us what the plans are for that development or for that land.
Yes, Mr. Duran should be on the line so he can answer your questions.
Excuse me, what was the question?
Just a basic question to see if you could share with us what the future plan of that development will be, or what will be the use of that land?
The use for that land will be, right now we have an interested person who wants to build a beauty shop.
I'm sorry, did you say a beauty shop?
Yes.
I don't have any other questions. I make a motion to approve.
I second.
Commissioners, we do have Mr. O'Brien who had questions.
Oh,
Mr. O'Brien?
Y'all, yes, again, the audio was incredibly bad on this, and I do apologize. If I understand correctly, this is the trailer, this is the lot that the trailer was on that burnt down a couple of months ago, is that correct?
Is this the lot with the trailer that burned down a couple months ago?
I don't know.
sorry.
We're not sure, Mr. O'Brien. This is on the corner of Moon Road, Moon and North Loop.
I thought the person on the phone that was describing this, thing knew exactly what they mentioned a trailer that was on this property. So my question is this actually that piece of property? Because there's a commercial building right beside it. Can somebody clarify the location of this property?
The property is in the corner of Moon Road and North Loop, right next to the canal that is crossing from one side of North Loop to the other. And I'm gonna put the,
Vacant piece?
yes, there used to be some structures that appear to be dilapidated. And they're currently in the process of cleaning it up. It's right next to the canal, but I'm not aware of any fire incidents happening in this lot.
That's across the street then. So this is the property for my question. If Moon Road runs east and west, this would be on the south side of the road,
On the north,
south side of the road, and and North Loop?
It's on the north side of the road, from North Loop.
The north side of North Loop and Moon Road.
Yes, sir.
Isn't there a home there right now?
No, sir.
How big is the piece of property?
It's a little bit over 3/4 of an acre.
3/4 of an acre?
Yes, sir.
And you're simply trying to rezone it to commercial property?
That's correct.
Again, just from my knowledge, when we first moved here 10 years ago, there was a home that was being, demoed at that property. Am I at the same location?
No, sir.
I'm sorry?
No, sir. The home that burned down is across the street.
No. When I first moved here 10 years ago, there was a home at that corner that was demolished. And that's when all of a sudden these trailers showed up on that piece of property. I just want to make sure that I'm at the right location. This property actually is on North Loop
Yes.
and Moon. Okay?
Yes, you are correct. There appears to have been a building there in the past, and it's not there anymore.
Okay. So I want to make sure I was at the right property.
Yes, you're
I
correct.
assume somebody in the commission can explain to me there, or at least discuss some potential security issues based on what would actually be built there, or are there any fencing requirements, anything like that for the commercial property?
Yes, there's a lot of requirements that they need to comply with when they bring in the construction plans. We need to make sure that they comply with the International Building Code. So everything that will be built is gonna have to be according to the 2015 building codes.
Thank you very much. You have answered my questions. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes,
Make a
ma'am.
motion to approve, please.
I have a motion.
I second.
I
I
have a
second.
motion made by Mr. Cisneros to approve, seconded by Mr. Arroyos. Now I'd like to take my votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
No.
Motion carried. Item number 13, public hearing for the proposed amendment to the Cities of Socorro's plan and rezoning of Tract 2D, 1D, 2C1, 1D3, 1C1, 4A, 2B, 4C, 4B1, 4B2, 1C, 1H, 1B, 1B1, 6C, 6B, and 6A. Block 6, Socorro Grant, from A1, C2 to R2, C2, for a new residential development.
We open public hearing at 6:14. Anybody signed up for that?
No, sir.
Close public hearing at 6:15.
Thank you. Item 14, consider and take action on the proposed amendment to the City of Socorro's master plan and rezoning of tracts 2D, 1D, 2C1, 1D3, 1C1, 4A, 2B, 4C, 4B1, 4B2, 1C, 1H, 1B, 1B1, 6C, 6B, and 6A, Block 6 Socorro Grant from A1 C2 to R2 C2 for a new residential development.
This is an application for a rezoning of several tracts of land. This property is about 600 feet northwesterly from Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. It has about 55.75 acres. It's owned by ESCO Industrial and the Lower East Valley Holding. According to the future land use map, should be used for agricultural. According to the flood insurance rate maps, this is in Zone X. The current land use of the property is agricultural. The proposed use is residential and commercial. On the north of the property, there's agricultural. In the south, there's a combination of R2 and C2. On the east, there is an ICMUD zone. And on the west, there's a combination of M1 and M2. The petitioner is asking for a zoning change to create a new subdivision. And the Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval. This application was brought to you before, and it came back to the board because there was a change in the exhibit that was brought to you. So it's the same application that you saw in the past. And I don't know if you have any questions. The developer and the engineer is on the line to answer your questions that you might have.
Mr. Terrazas, I do remember this case, and there, I don't see an exhibit in this agenda on our, the one that we got via email.
Yes, here it is on the screen.
Okay, but we didn't get it in our packet, right?
No, sir, I forgot to include it, but here it is.
So if I remember correctly, one of the things that we talked about based on this specific development was that it did not meet the R1 minimums that the city of Socorro has implemented, correct?
They were asking for a variance to a portion of the lots to reduce the area below 6,000 square feet. And the numbers are shown on the screen, what they're proposing.
And I'm trying to find in my packet, if I remember correctly, there's a three-part rule that has to be met, or one of three parts in order to meet, to give a variance. Can you go over that with us? What we have to take into consideration when looking at a variance?
Yeah, so when you're looking at a variance, there's three things that you might keep in mind. Number one would be if this is for the benefit does it serve a public use, or is it for the benefit of a Is it for the benefit of a developer, or is it gonna serve a public use? Number two is, does it meet the spirit of the code? And number three, is it gonna create a hardship on the developer? And our observations were that it will create a hardship on the developer by not granting this variance due to the amount of right-of-way they're gonna be donating for a future roadway.
That's 5 acres, right, that they're donating?
Yes, sir.
Can you go down a little bit so that we can look at our numbers, since we don't have that in our packet? So 40% of the lots would constitute somewhere in the neighborhood of about 90 lots, correct?
Yes, sir.
And And you said, sorry, I was only able to write two down. Two things that we have to consider when looking at variances is one, the spirit of the code, two, a hardship on the developer, and then three, if it's in the best interest of the city, or could you go, what was the first one that I missed?
Is it for a public interest? So in other words, is it something that is gonna be of the interest to the public, not only for the benefit of a developer?
The smallest lot is 5,500 square feet, correct?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. Anybody else? Anything else?
Do we have a
I
second?
have a question. Mr. Joe,
Yes, sir.
in my understanding, the new East Lake Road, it should go straight to the Alameda, passing for those lands. And I don't see any continuation from East Lake Road to this development.
The roadway that you see on the plan that was on the screen is only all the way to Nevares. The city does have in the master plan a future roadway that is gonna connect all the way to Alameda, but that's gonna be a project that is gonna be subsidized by the city. For this
Yeah, because-
developer, this is only the portion of land that they're gonna be developing.
Yeah, because actually this future development should be working better with this East Lake passing all the way through to Alameda, and it'll be a good circulation on the cars.
Yes, sir.
I remember sometimes we spoke about it, that this lake is gonna go continues to the Alameda. But as a matter of fact, we saw a little drawing, a little sketch on that road that the planning department should have it. You don't know nothing about it?
No, sir.
Can we hold in this item until we find that? Because this is part of the city of Socorro growing, and I mean, it's fine to build houses there, but also, I mean, I really don't like to get lots less than 6,000 square feet. It's too small, but that doesn't matter for that. But the street, it'll help us to the city of Socorro in the future, and the continuation of the East Lake. Can somebody work in that?
Yes, of course, we're gonna look into that when we get the plat. This is only the zoning change.
Yeah, before we approve the development, we need to decide what the city's gonna do with this continuation of the East Lake, new East Lake Street.
Mr. La Fuente, this is only for the zoning, not for the plat.
Yes, but when they present you the development, can you consider that?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Terrazas, how long ago did the city of Socorro do away with R2s as a designation?
R2 has not been eradicated. They're still in full force. The ones that were eradicated are the R3s.
Okay, then anything under 6,000 would be considered what?
It would be considered a
R3.
I don't remember, I don't recall what is the area that is required for R3. And I believe it's the same as R2, but I just don't remember.
So the hard part about this conversation is that, can you go back to the total number of rooftops and the variance that they're requesting? So, it looks like that, 14.3 plus 13.8, 14.2 plus 6.5 plus 7.8 plus, actually. Sorry, I was mistaken. I thought that only 40% of the households were gonna be requesting variance. According to these numbers, it looks like it's 57.6% that are gonna be under the 6,000 square feet lot size. Am I correct in that calculation, or?
Yes, I believe so.
Can I want to offer an opinion. To get a 6,000 square foot lot, typically the lots are going to be 60 foot wide. And so the end result on the home is at maximum it can be 50 feet wide. So to go to a lot size of 5,500, typically the lot width goes down to 55 feet, which means the house would only be 45 feet wide. In my opinion, it's a small change. Although I know what Mr. Cisneros is saying, it kind of looks like if they're packed in really tight, but I think that the change is only 5 feet typically on the lot width. It only goes from 60 feet to 55 feet. It's a rather insignificant change. When we compare it to the amount of land, which I think is 5 acres that the developer is gonna contribute to the city of Socorro. If we were looking at lots that were 90 feet wide and they were gonna come down to 45 feet wide, if the lots were 100 feet wide and they were coming down to 45 feet wide, well then that's a big change. But going from 60 to 55 feet, you're driving down the street and you're looking at these homes side by side. It's 55 feet. You can hardly tell the difference because it's only 5 feet. Although it is noticeable because those houses seem to be, it's a smaller product. They're more narrow. They're 50 feet wide. They're going to be 45 feet wide instead of 50. But I'm thinking that the subdivision they're still only 60 foot wide. They're going to be 60 foot wide lots and 55 foot lots, or 5,500. So looking at the whole subdivision, if we had lots in here that were 10,000 square feet or half an acre, or then I think it'd be a significant change. But in overall, the subdivision is a narrow lot subdivision. I think there's a motion right now to approve. I want to second the motion based on what I just said.
There's a motion to approve by Mr. Arroyos. Do I have a second?
Yes, I want a second.
It is a point of personal privilege. Is the floor still open for conversation, or is that, do we move immediately to a vote?
Rosas?
I think that's a question for Mr. Body, because we already have a motion and a second.
Yeah, so I think since there's a motion and a second, you have to now proceed with the vote. Unless the presiding officer wants to reopen it for a discussion, but technically you now have to vote on the motion. So then we need to also then, if we have a motion and a second, then we need to have a call and vote.
I'd like to take my votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
No, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent today. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
No.
Okay, since that motion didn't pass, what I wanted to share with the commissioners was that according to the comprehensive master plan, is anything under 6,000 square feet is considered R3.
R3, exactly.
So, according to this, right? So, my overview of when I saw the packet, I knew we were going to go over this again, and in my mind, I was kind of going over what we had gone over the last meeting, and I know that it's a difficult decision because there's a number of things that we have to take into account. One is Socorro needs the rooftops. 2, we need the tax base. 3, the rooftops are going to bring commercial development to the city of Socorro. And yes, the developer has been a partner with the city in developing a lot of the undeveloped land. But I think, at first I thought it was 40%. Now that I see the numbers live, you know, that number has completely changed. And I think a variance of over half isn't a variance, it's a deviation. So I understand that it's a difficult decision, especially when the developer is giving the city what he is giving us. I just think that when you're in a partnership and you're working together, one, it is a private entity, right? It is a private project. So I don't think it meets the public interest, a part of the variance code. 2, I don't think it meets the spirit of the code because it's such a high percentage of the lots that are much under what we've approved in the past is R2. Now, I understand that it does cause a hardship to the developer. So I would be willing to approve it, but not when the majority of the lots are deficient and they don't meet the R2. I mean, in my opinion, a variance is, let's say 25%, you know, that's still a passing grade, that's a solid C. You know, over 50% outside of that's what's hard. And I understand that it might not make a big difference in the lot size, but what makes the difference between an R2 to R3 is the increase in parking, the noise violations, the close living quarters, which there's a reason why we haven't seen any of those come across. So again, I want to be as open to working something out, but I just think this is too big, too far I don't think this is a variance. I think this is a deficiency. This is just way too much.
I'd like to just put in my two cents. I just think we need to emphasize a lot on that the developers are really giving us five acres of land. And I agree also with Mr. Estrada on the difference in lot from 6 to 6,500. If it were under 5,000, I would probably lean the other way or whatnot. But since it's pretty close to the 6,000, I just want to emphasize a lot on those 5 acres that they're giving us.
And I completely see that point, and I know that's what makes it difficult to try to, it's hard to hold somebody to the standard that the city has put forth in their master plan when they're working with us, but dice el dicho, vas a hacer un favor, hazlo bien. Mr. Terrazas, can you go to the, again, I just want to emphasize the lot sizes and the number of lots and how far we are from what we have as a city, as a master plan.
I don't know if you want to talk to Mr. Escobar. He's also on the line to answer any of your questions that you might have. Or if Mr. Escobar wants, if you want to say something.
Well, let me ask Mr. Escobar a question. In the last meeting, you had mentioned that there was 40%, and we calculated that it's over 50%. Was that changed from the last time we were here?
Mr. Grajeda, I have been muted. You would need to lower down the live stream video. That way there isn't any feedback.
What is the question, please?
My question was, the last time this came to planning and zoning, 40% of the lots that were being developed were under 6,000 square feet. Now that we're looking at it, it's more like 57% are under the 6,000 square feet. Did that change from the last meeting, or were more?
What happens is, if you see that strip of land down the center of the subdivision, can you see this? Can you put it back up? If you can see the strip of land that goes down the center of the subdivision, that's an arroyo that is owned by the what is it called?
The Water Improvement
The County
District.
Water Improvement District, the one going up and down, the white one, that one. So we were trying to purchase that and trying to make the lots bigger. And we actually had more lots and a better sized lot. The problem is they did not want to sell that piece. They want to leave it there. So since we did not acquire that piece, the percentages changed. And it's not that we're trying to get more lots. We lost 20 lots by not getting that piece. And you have to understand that we're donating you 5 acres. If you multiply 5 acres times 43,560, you know, that's over 200,000 square feet divided into 6,000. And we're missing a bunch of lots. But we understand that Socorro wants to extend that street all the way down. So we're trying to cooperate. Just in that piece, we lose 36 lots. So we're trying to cooperate with the city. We designed this in conjunction with the city of Socorro. And all we're asking for is the same that we got in Unit 1. In Unit 1, we gave you less than 3 acres. And we got the reduction of 5,500 square feet. Here, we're not even asking for the full reduction. If you see the percentages, it's very little percentage is under 5,700 square feet. Now, when you're talking 5,700 square feet, I mean, the lots, you're talking about 5 foot of the patio in the back. So instead of having a 60-foot long patio, you're going to have a 55-foot patio. I mean, and that's the difference, 5 feet in the back. But if you have to understand that the amount of land that we're donating, we have the ponding areas in the correct placing so you can drain that street. I mean, this was designed with the city of Socorro help and input. So we're not trying to take advantage. On the contrary, we put there the schedule so you could see the percentages of what we're trying to do. We have parks on both sides of the main road because that's how you wanted it, so people don't have to cross the main road to go play. We're connecting to the adjacent neighborhood. We're straightening out Nevada's Road, instead of having that crooked intersection, we're straightening out Nevada's Road. I mean, we've tried to cooperate with the city of Socorro throughout the subdivision.
Mr. Terrazas, can you bring it down to like, so we can look at the numbers?
The numbers are right there. Can you show them, Joe?
They're on the screen.
I'd like to make a,
Under
again,
5,700.
if anybody else has any other questions or whatnot, I'd like to make a motion to approve again, or is,
Do we have a second?
I second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Arroyos to approve, seconded by Mr. Estrada. I'd like to take my votes. Andrew Arroyos,
yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
No, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent, David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
No, ma'am.
Motion fail.
So if we can go back to the numbers page, Mr. Terrazas, please. Okay, and again, I want to voice it as clear as I possibly can. As a small business owner myself, I completely understand where the developer's coming from. But I think that the commissioners are uniquely positioned, one, not as an employee of the city, two, not as a commercial vested, there's no economical invested in development. As commissioners, not, volunteers, we're uniquely positioned to voice an opinion that, one, will affect the end use, two, try to help the developer as much as we possibly can to make it as easy as we can possibly make it with working with the city. But I think that the percentage, I mean, again, even when we're looking at, the percentage of lots under 57 square feet, that's almost nearly 30%. And again, that is why I want to make it as clear as I possibly can, and still knowing and appreciating how difficult and how much work has gone into this. But I think as commissioners, we're uniquely positioned to hold both the city accountable and developers to say, in my opinion, over 50% of a variance isn't a variance, it's a deficiency. And having to negotiate that with, yes, we are very appreciative with what you're donating. But if I remember correctly at the last presentation, that was already part of the plan, but we were informed and we were told that only 40% was outside of was under the 6,000 square feet. And when we look at the numbers today, it's much more than that. So that's kind of why, that's where my concern is coming from.
Mr. Escobar, did you say something about, I guess, WID not selling you a portion of the land, and that was a difference from last time to this time?
Excuse me, the question again?
The question was, I think I heard something you say about the WID not selling you a portion of the land or something like that, which made the difference between last time to this time?
Yes.
On the number of
Difference
lots?
is we lost all the acreage that goes down the middle of the subdivision. All the acreage that goes down the middle of the subdivision that belongs to the irrigation district.
Right, so that was the difference in the lots, right? Because you guys weren't able to purchase that?
It's not only the difference in the lots, because we lost 20 lots, but it's also the difference in the percentages.
And again, Mr. Terrazas, if we can look at the map, because we don't have it in our packet, to see what that land are referenced to.
So what Mr. Escobar is trying to explain is all this land that you see here in the middle, this used to be lots before. And then when they spoke to the Water Improvement District, they didn't want to sell the land, so they lost all the properties that were here in the middle.
So can we vote on this again? I don't know if.
Mr. Terrazas, when was it last presented to planning and zoning?
I'm sorry?
When was this first presented to us?
I don't understand the question.
I was asking when was this first presented to us?
I think it was on,
This development? Or when was the last time it was presented to us?
it was presented in February 4th to City Council.
So is it probably the January 21st?
But the last time that it came to you was on January the 19th. January the 19th. Mr. Cisneros, do you
Again,
want to make?
I'd like to, just, I understand Mr. Cisneros, where Mr. Cisneros is coming from. Also, I do agree with him certain, to a certain point stuff, but I do look at this subdivision as different from others, due to the, amount of land that is needed for the widening of the street in the future. And, I guess that's my way of just leaning towards approving this. I know that the R3 was done away with a couple of, I don't know how many years ago or whatnot, but I'd like to actually, in a report later on or whatnot, like to talk about that a little bit as to the square footages on the R2 or. But again, with that said, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
I have a question for the attorney. Is the owner of the land under any obligation to contribute any of the land for that, for the right of way, for the future road?
No, I don't believe so. Well, this is a complicated question. If City of Socorro wanted to condemn any property at any time for a public purpose, they can start it. Whether or not the developer is, has to do it at this point, he doesn't. There's just the parkland requirement, and there's other following the platting rules, everything like that. But no, I mean, he's not required to do that. And also, you know, when you look at every application, you also can't make one person give something and not make another person give something. That's why there's a consistent rule, and the parkland rule applies to every application. But yeah, you can't force one person to do it, because then it's kind of playing favorites and not, or punishing people for not. So, if it's part of some kind of negotiation with the city at some point because the city's interested in it, that's another thing. And then also, the things with roadways get very complicated. I've worked with City of Socorro on this, at least on 2 big highway projects. I did work with them on Old Quaco Tanks Road project at the time, but it gets a lot more I could talk about it forever, but it gets into whether or not the city wants to accept it or not. Even if it is dedicated to the city, does the city have the funds to maintain the road? Do they get matching from the state or federal grants? Do they have the money to build a right of way? It gets into a whole thing. I mean, those things, sometimes it's that wasn't even that big of a road, but it turns into a $10 million project and requires, then talking to utility companies, negotiating with them to move utility lines, all sorts of things. So yeah, just even a little segment of a road, it turns into a big thing. So yeah, I mean, and also you also have to look at the different stages of applications. Right now, I mean, this is a rezoning thing, so I think you guys are discussing, the appropriate things, but, that's why we have the different steps that we then get to. Okay, you need to submit a preliminary plat, the final plat. There's different stages of approval that the Planning and Zoning Commission, has a chance to look at different stages of development. So, sorry, I know that's a long answer to a simple question, but that's what attorneys do, I guess.
Okay, I have another question. I'm not sure who would answer this, but is the developer being compensated in any way for the 5 acres, other than him trying to make up lots by making them smaller? But I guess my question is the city of Socorro paying for any portion of those 5 acres? Monetary actual paying for it?
I'm not aware myself, or maybe Joe.
No, the city's not paying for that area of land.
Okay, so I'm basing my decision on the fact that I'm familiar with like, for example, the irrigation canal. I can see, they're going to say no, they're not going to give up their irrigation canal. In this case, they said no. So I see the developer trying to make up his lot, and the end result, he's going to make money by selling lots. And so he's contributing 5 acres. If we do the math, that's a whole lot of lots that he's giving up. And I see him simply trying to make up some of those lots in the end. Completed subdivision, he sells to builders, he makes his money. I'm also basing my decision on the fact that he doesn't have to, he doesn't have to give any land. I think it makes, the expansion is good for everybody, good for Socorro, good for the developers, good for commercial businesses, good all the way around. And the city of Socorro is getting 5 acres. I think this is a good deal for Socorro. And then I go back to what I said a while ago, the lot size is minimal. If we were going from acre lots to 5,000 square foot lots, or 10,000 square foot lots to 5,000, that's significant. But I think it's a very small amount of land that we're talking about per lot. So I think there's motion, so I'm going to second the motion based on that.
I have a motion made by Mr. Arroyos to approve, seconded by Mr. Estrada. Now, I'd like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
No, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
No.
Motion
So-
failed. Item number 15, consider and take action on the preliminary plat approval for Valle Nuevo Commercial Center Number 1, being a portion of tracks 10, 11, 12A, 13A2, 14, and 14A, Block 5, Socorro Grant for a new commercial development.
Real quick, did the motion pass or fail?
No, sir, the motion failed.
Okay, so does the discussion continue?
No, sir, we moved on to item number 15. So on this one, this is an application for a new subdivision. This is called Valle Nuevo Commercial Center. This subdivision is located at in the corner of North Loop and Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. This is going to be a commercial subdivision. Here it is. This one has about 25.5 acres, and it's owned by Bray Development. It will have 19 lots, 2 ponding areas, and according to the FEMA firms, this property is in Zone X. The petitioner is asking to subdivide the land to create the lots. Let me just show it on the screen here real quick. Here it is. And this is the preliminary plat. This one will have a 72-foot roadway on the back. This is Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road. And this is the extension of Hueco Junction, and it's gonna connect to the street in the back that is gonna be used for delivery of services to the commercial properties. And here are the ponding areas that you see. The Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval with a condition that they bring the documents that are required. Some of them, they're still in the works, and the plans are still being reviewed by the city's consultant, so we still don't have the comments from the engineers. And I don't know if you have any questions about this one. Also, this property, the owner is on the line. If you have any questions for the developer, he's also on the line, so he can answer your questions that you might have.
I have a question. On the map that we saw, the development shows like the lots are bigger on the other side of the street that is there. Is there any future construction on the other side of the street of the lots?
I don't understand the question, Mr.
Okay.
Lafuente.
You see East Lake, New East Lake Street, right? And then behind the lots, there's another street, new,
Yes.
right there. So on the other side of the street, is there any development in that area?
Yes, this is gonna be developed in the future. This is all gonna be a mixture of industrial properties. Let me just put it
Industrial
on the
property,
screen
okay.
again. This is the aerial view. So all this will be developed eventually, but they're developing in phases. This is only part 1, or phase 1. And eventually, it's gonna be developed all the way to the city limit, and including a portion of this land over here.
That you said what kind of commercial is industrial or?
This is gonna be the only commercial land that will be developed at the moment.
Yes, but what is the future of the other one?
The other one is, it has a zoning classification of ICMUD, which is a mixture of industrial and commercial.
Industrial, commercial.
Yes,
So that means like factories or?
warehouse buildings, Yes.
I make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion made by Mr. Arroyos to approve, seconded by Mr. Estrada. I'd like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 16, consider and take action on the preliminary plat approval for Socorro Logistics Center Number 1, being a portion of tracks 8, 9, 10, and 11, Block 5, Socorro Graham, for a new industrial development.
This one is an application for another subdivision, and this one is going to be also on Nuevo Hueco Tanks. This is phase 2 of the development that we just saw, but this one is going to be an industrial warehouse. It is owned by Hunt Eastlake Industrial LLC, and this is approximately 36.61 acres. This is also in flood zone X, according to the FEMA firms. This property will contain only one lot and one pond. There's also gonna be 2 ponding areas that are gonna be privately maintained. And also the Planning and Zoning Department recommends approval. This is gonna be a warehouse building, and I'm gonna show an exhibit here on the screen. Here it is. So it's only gonna be one big lot for the building. I don't know if you have any questions about this one.
Can we know what kind of business they planning?
Yes, it's gonna be a warehouse.
Is that warehouse allows semi-trucks inside?
The representative from Hunt is also on the line, and he might be able to give you more information about the type of business.
Where's the entrance and on East Lake, New East Lake, or
It's on Nuevo Hueco Tanks.
is that the entrance of the lot of the?
Yes, it's gonna be here on Nuevo Hueco Tanks Road.
Because I saw the street the other side of the lot along to the west or to the north.
So right now, what they're gonna do by recording this, when they record the preliminary plat, there's gonna be a portion of a street that will eventually turn around, and it's going to connect all the way to Inglewood. But
Okay.
at the moment, they're only gonna do a portion of the street,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna be dedicating it to the city. Here it is. So they're just gonna develop this portion in the meantime. And then there's also gonna be another street that's gonna go north that eventually will lead all the way to Gateway East.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Myself.
Thank you. I have a motion made by Mr. Arroyos to approve, seconded by Mr. Cisneros. I'd like to take my votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 17, Planning and Zoning Commissioners Report.
I don't have anything to report. Mr. Job, is this like the time to talk maybe about, like I said before, talk about the rezoning as far as square footages on the R2?
Yes.
So, going back to that subdivision, I know in the past we've done away with the R3 zoning because the lots were too small or whatnot, but what would have to be the, is that something that we can talk about in the future a little bit more and kind of dissect that a little bit more as far as changing square footages?
Yes, that is something that we can bring up to council to consider amending the area that is allowed for the R2s.
Okay.
Mr. Terrazas, and I do have a question. Is there also a way that we can define how much of a variance we can approve, and then also define when a variance comes to planning and zoning and when it should go to Board of Adjustments?
Yeah, so all that stuff is information that you can compile, and maybe we can put everything together and eventually take it to council for approval or consideration. You can define what you would consider acceptable to grant a variance or stuff like that, or what would be the appropriate area for these zonings.
And one last thing, can we request that in the future that all of the documentation that was provided today always be in the packet, because that would have been really helpful.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there anything
I
else
don't
to
have
report?
anything else.
I have something to report on the commissioners. Along the North Loop between Horizon and Clint, actually there's like 90% of the street full of cars, full of vehicles, transiting around and back and forth in some crowded areas. Is there any way to ask to the TxDOT to increase the North Loop in four lanes due to the new developments are going to be full packing the North Loop?
I guess we can send the concern to TxDOT, absolutely.
Yeah, because actually the developments are like 10% or 15% of the houses, and actually it's a crowded areas in certain time. But now, then when all the houses are constructed, so there's gonna be a real problem.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Item number 18, Planning and Zoning Department report.
The only thing I have to report is that there was a new Planning and Zoning Commissioner that was sworn in, but we haven't been able to get a hold of her. So for that reason, she's not in the meeting. She still has to go back and sign some paperwork. But we can't get a hold of her, so I don't know if she's gonna be joining the Planning and Zoning Commission. And that was the only thing that I have to report.
Item number 19, excuse absent commission members. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to excuse.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion made by Mr. Arroyos to excuse, seconded by Mr. La Fuente. Now, I'd like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Item number 20, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Everybody.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion made by Mr. Cisneros, I'm sorry, to adjourn, and seconded
Yes.
by Mr. Arroyos.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Alright.
I would like to take your votes. Andrew Arroyos,
Yes, ma'am.
Enrique Cisneros,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernest Gomez is absent. David Estrada,
Yes.
Arturo Lafuente.
Yes.
Motion is carried. Meeting adjourned at 7:12 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Commissioners. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Good evening. Thank you.